I had the idea that day, what if they took the south parcel of the train station and went up 10 stories and left the whole north parcel all open space? And then I heard you say, I hate tall buildings.
I hate tall buildings.
Said,
I do. I'm sorry. I don't like tall
idea.
buildings. I mean, I loved Riverview Towers. It's not an architectural masterpiece.
Yeah.
I know they don't call it Riverview Towers anymore. They call it something else. But it's not an architectural masterpiece. It's just not. I think there's more architectural style associated with the train station project at a lower height. Mm-hmm. We met many times with them, and my mind was changed by the public. I was okay with the height they wanted, and then the public was so adamant about it, we suggested, how about you take off another floor? And they almost had a cow right there in the room, and then they finally made it work.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Red Bank Green podcast. Today we're going to be talking about what everybody is talking about in Red Bank, which is development.
And that there's too much of it.
They're telling you that.
Yes, they are.
And no one better to talk about all this than my guest today, Dan Mancuso, chairman of the Red Bank Planning Board for how many years?
32.
On the board.
On the board.
How many as chairman?
As the actual chairman, probably 5 or 6 years. Vice chairman, maybe 15 years before that.
Right. So running the show on the planning board, which decides what oversees the master plan process that ended in 2023 with a new master plan, overseeing projects that get approval or denied before the planning board, redevelopment projects, and everything. And the reason I wanted to have this conversation was I was reading the Historic Preservation Commission just finished its new guidelines that it put out, this big fat booklet, and they're about to, I guess, vote on that at the council soon. I was reading that, and there was a really interesting, it's really cool when you read the beginning.
I haven't read it yet, so I'm looking forward to that.
The beginning is really cool because it talks about Red Bank architecture as a reflection of its history, and it got me thinking about these phases in Red Bank history. Started as like a steamship port for farm markets, then there was the railroads came in, and then the Eisner factory and became an mini industrial hub. And there's these pivot points in history that got me thinking, like, it really does, with all the development and the projects going on, it feels like this town is at another sort of a pivot point in what it's going to become or not. Now you're shaking your head. You don't agree with me.
It could be. The complaints people have about overdevelopment, in my opinion, are very small in stature. You know, if your great aunt passed and left you 4 acres on the Wells Fargo site on 303 Broad Street, would you make it a park?
Absolutely, I would. You
wouldn't develop it and retire?
I would probably. I don't think I could live with myself.
Right,
but that's me. That's me.
Well, good for you.
I'm a hippie freak.
I think you are in the minority there. I think most people left an acre, or in that case, it's 4+ acres, to develop in town and get rich or make millions of dollars. Most people are going to develop it, hopefully with a better idea than not. But to all the people who are upset about a new development, wherever it is, pick any of the ones that are under construction or about to start in the next 12 months, most people, I think, would choose to develop it. Mm-hmm. Rather than leave it or donate it to the town. It would have been great if Wells Fargo or whoever owned that building donated it to the town, because I think it would be a great municipal building and police station.
Yeah.
Not just because I live 195 feet away from it, but because I think that would be cool. And in my remaining time on the board, I could walk to meetings. Not that I can't walk to meetings.
What happened to that? We're getting sidetracked here, but what happened to that idea which came out a couple years ago from the redevelopment agency, which has now been wiped out and eliminated? But they had an idea to move Borough Hall to that Wells Fargo.
And I think it was looked at, but I don't have any insight into why, except long-term probably good move because they'd probably never leave.
Yeah.
Great tenant to have. But conversely, whatever they're going to build, and I haven't seen any plans yet, my vision for that site, if my great aunt died and left me that site, it would have been a dozen single-family homes. But nobody's going to do that. I'm told they want to build townhouses.
Right. as we reported that on
Yeah.
Red Bank Green.
That's probably where I found out, because I haven't seen any plans for it yet.
Nothing's been submitted yet.
And I
so
don't think it's
still-
going to come to the planning board anyway. I think it's going to go to the zoning board, because if they want to build townhouses, they're going to need a D variance, which is the hardest
Right.
variance to get, because townhouses are not permitted on
That's
that
what
site.
Deputy Mayor Kate Trigiano said at the council meeting, that they are going to have some high hurdles in order to
They
build
do.
the
I mean,
townhomes that they
you need 5
wanna build on
affirmative
that site.
votes from the zoning board, regardless of how many members showed up to vote that night. And that RA zone is the most
Oh,
restricted
so now I'm getting the
zone.
specifics of what she said at the meeting. That's pretty
Yeah,
behind what she
it's single-family houses
Yeah.
in that zone only,
right.
no townhouses.
But what people feel like, and I actually feel like, since I took over as editor of Red Bank Green a year and a half ago, I feel like I've become a real estate reporter. Like, it's like it really
It's a hot
feels
topic.
like all
It's
the
a hot
time I'm
topic in
covering
town.
another story about another development. That's
I would
going
love to go back to the days of the Eisner factory when they turned it in to the factory to make World War I uniforms, and I'd really love to know what the public thought about it. You know, nobody gave a crap about traffic. Nobody thought about
Right.
traffic back then, or density.
I did see a 1925 Red Bank Register article recently talking about downtown businesses complaining about lack of parking. 1920. I have it queued up for July when it's the 100th anniversary of that article, because I'm going to rerun it and say the 100-year search for parking in Red Bank.
Yeah, that parking in general we've heard about for a long time. Back in the 30s when they talked about going Broad Street to the river for the first time and tearing down those buildings, and I don't even think they thought about going underground then. They just wanted Broad Street to the river, and parking's always a challenge. But now I wonder if before the pandemic we had built the parking garage on White Street, how much of it would have been used besides the RBC students?
I heard
wonder.
you. I heard you say things, make comments during meetings that I agreed with, and then some I don't agree with, and we can talk about some of them actually.
Sure.
But one of them I agreed with was what you said, and I have had this experience. 22 years living in Red Bank, hearing people talk about the lack of parking. Never, and I'm lazy, and I drive too much when I should be walking and riding a bike.
But you never have trouble
I've
finding a
never,
parking space. do
I've
you?
never failed to find a parking
Neither
space
have I.
within 5 minutes. Even on, a Friday night in September, October,
Yep.
the Basie's got a show, Two River Theater has a show.
And you want to go to Teak for dinner. Where are you going to park? But I've never not found
never
that
not
parking
found-
space. I'm willing to walk a few blocks. I get it.
Well, that's it. You're willing to walk a few
People want to park in front of the store they're going to go shop at, and they think a garage is going to alleviate some
Right.
on-street parking where they want to park, and I don't think that's
I
necessarily
go to the
gonna
East Side
happen.
lots. The East Side lots is always,
There's always space there.
but it's not Red Bank is just not the place where you park in front of where you can eat. That's a strip mall on Route 35.
Yeah, it's rare. I think it's rare. And it doesn't bother me that I have to walk
Yeah.
a couple of blocks
Yeah.
to get to where I'm going.
A restaurant owner, when I was reporting on Broadwalk recently, said to me, one of the most vocal restaurant owners about the parking garage said to me, Red Bank doesn't have a parking problem. It has the perception of a parking problem. He said that to me. And this is the person who's pushing for the garage.
Yeah,
for
I believe that.
way back. But
As people who've never had trouble finding a place to park, I can't in good conscience say we have a parking problem.
right.
I really don't. I'm not sure that we do, and I wonder if a garage is a good idea. And there were lots of ideas floated back then about the garage. Do we put stores on the bottom to make a nice street level facade? Do we go 7, 8 stories and put a couple stories of townhouses up there to make the developer, to have this make sense for a developer? I don't know the answer to those questions, but I wasn't 100% sure we needed a garage there. And think about the garage at Pozzo is 101,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
That took a load off for Count Basie, for sure. That's a big parking garage.
They're going to have to rely on that more now if the train station redevelopment plans go through. Because I've noticed in recent years, people are catching on that the train station lots are the place to park when you're going to a show at the Basie. And those lots they're empty during commuting times, and they're more full on weekends now with the...
That's always that's good news. I mean, I used to drop my daughter off at the train when she used to take the train into the city, which she now won't do under any circumstance. That she takes the boat. She doesn't want to take the train anymore. Really unreliability. There was never anyone in that parking lot at 7 o'clock in the morning. There was 2 cars maybe, and I was in the lot right across from the Armory. There was never anybody there. So I'm glad to see that people are maybe parking there on nights and weekends and walking. It's not that far.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes from there to the. I've actually timed it on my phone to the theater.
I can walk to Food Town in 6 minutes. I know. I understand your situation.
Yeah, and you probably drive sometimes, though, right? Even though you can walk. See, this is what
I do, but
all
if
the
I'm
time.
if I'm only going to Food Town, I will walk. If I'm going anywhere else, I'll drive. But I can walk and get a bagel at Broadway Bagels. I can walk across the tracks and get a coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. And no, I'm not getting a coffee anywhere else. But yeah, it's still a walkable town. Almost anywhere you are, you don't have to get in your car. We're going to go to dinner downtown tonight, and my guess is we're going to drive.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about, all right, so say there's any given plot of land, and this is what's happening all over town. Somebody owns land, and they want to cash in on it, and they sell it to a developer, and then they go to retire, and then the developer comes and proposes something. Now, people see you and the planning board and the land use boards as, you're saying you can develop that, but people see you as a bulwark between that developer's plans and something that they don't want. Overdevelopment in this case.
Yeah.
Something too big, something too crowded, something that changes the character of this town.
And all of those people should have come out during the master plan process. But there weren't 1,000 people that showed up at the senior center.
Your frustration is my frustration. When I wrote about it, it's like nobody reads it, and then a year later when the story comes out, they're screaming and
like what happened to my town.
Yes. Yeah.
When people show up to the planning board, I genuinely thank the public, and I'm very sincere about that. I'm thrilled when people show up, even if they disagree or they think it's a terrible idea, which there's always a handful that do, who want nothing ever built ever. And I would say those people privately, you should move to Shrewsbury, where I grew up, where they'll never let you build anything.
People would love that.
Well, then good. They should move to Shrewsbury. Mm-hmm. But people have a right to develop a piece of property, and I firmly believe that. And we have ordinances, and we have a master plan. And if you're kind of in line with that, I think we're pretty easy in many ways. But if you put together a horrible idea, or you want to put a high-rise on the Atlantic Club parking lot, in case you guys are listening, a high-rise is never going to happen.
Is that proposed now? He said he wanted townhouses.
He did, but if he wanted a high-rise, it'd be a different story.
They're already pretty tall buildings over there. Another thing I heard you say is that you hate tall buildings.
I generally do, yes. And I used to live in Riverview Towers when I first moved to Red Bank. I loved Riverview Towers. Met my wife in Riverview Towers. But I don't want any more 12-story buildings in town. I just don't.
Why?
Because mostly they're ugly. And they're probably too dense for wherever you want to put it. And when we started talking about the train station overlay, I was very adamant with the applicant and everyone else on the board and the mayor and council. 8 stories is an absolute no. And the developer said to me, he said, we really need 7 stories. And I said, over my dead body, it's just not going to happen. Because it's too tall. I just think it's too tall. And I grew up over there. My grandfather had his plumbing company on Bridge Avenue. I grew up on that site.
So in the middle of that whole train station process, I went to New York City one day, and I went to the Guggenheim, and I was on this little day-long architecture frenzy. And I took all these pictures.
Guggenheim's what, 5-6 stories?
I don't know.
It's not that tall.
Well, but as I walked around New York and as I took the ferry, I was taking pictures of all these incredible tall buildings. Big buildings, incredible architecture, funky architecture, interesting architecture. And then you get on the train home to New Jersey and you pass by 5-story squat shoe boxes.
All along the North Jersey coastline, the entire
route. Right, but isn't that a result of all these towns saying we don't want anything tall? So what you get is you get small and wide, and you have smaller setbacks, and you have less open space, and you have crappy architecture because there's no return on the investment. I'm not agree with this, but to play devil's advocate, what if I had the idea that day? What if they took the south parcel of the train station and went up 10 stories, and left the whole north parcel all open space? And then I heard you say, I hate tall buildings.
I hate tall buildings.
I'm
sorry. I don't like tall buildings. I mean, I loved Riverview Towers. It's not an architectural masterpiece. Yeah. I know they don't call it Riverview Towers anymore. They call it something else. But It's not an architectural masterpiece. It's just not. I think there's more architectural style associated with the train station project at a lower height. Mm-hmm. We met many times with them, and my mind was changed by the public. I was okay with the height they wanted, and then the public was so adamant about it, we suggested, how about you take off another floor? And they almost had a cow right there in the room, and then they finally made it work. And the street level architecture, at least of the renderings that I've seen, is far more appealing than some of the taller buildings.
Well, there's an example, too, of you saying you changed your mind on something because people came to the meeting.
Right there in the meeting, I changed my mind.
So one of the things that I've seen over my 30 years of reporting is there's this sort of civic disengagement, and it's almost caused by social media, where people will go on Facebook and make a comment and think they made their point.
Yeah.
And then I go to these meetings and I go to the council, and I know they don't put any credence in social media comments, and they don't. But or the planning boards, and I know you probably don't either. But if people show up, it's a very different story. You actually
I read everything.
You do read them.
I read
them.
everything, all the horrible comments people make, all the stupid things people say, and the questions they ask. I never answer. I never comment. And I've given that advice.
You shouldn't have said you're reading it, because now it's going to.
I read it all. I read it all. You hear that,
Dan.
Alan Hill? I read all your remarks.
Even names.
As negative as they are, I read all of them. But I don't comment, and I've given that advice to board members before. I'm like, you will never comment your way out of this. Don't say anything.
Yeah.
Because you'll get dragged down into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
You can't, because you can't win with some of these people. So I'm very interested in their comments and ideas, but it means a lot to me when people come to meetings and speak up as a resident, or not as a resident, or as a business owner, and tell me what you think. It doesn't mean we're going to go that way, but as I said with the train station, my mind was changed on that one.
One thing about the train station development, and everyone would want it smaller, but the question that I have for people who have come out against it is, and I would like it to stay, as a resident, would like it to stay gravel parking lots forever, because I can park there and whatever. But I know that's not realistic, and I know that the town is in a bind with state affordable housing policies. They have
every town.
They have a number they have to hit, and if you don't hit it, you get a developer's remedy lawsuit, and
which we've never had,
and those guys get to build whatever the heck they want, right? So if they said no to the train station and we didn't meet the quota, a developer could come in and say, here's what we're going to build, and
with
we're going
the
to sue
state's
you.
backing.
Right. And they get whatever.
And we understand that, and our job to fix those kinds of things is the master plan. Mm-hmm. Because we can say, here's the master plan that says we're not interested in this in town. That would go a very long way in court. Is if your master plan said absolutely not to that kind of development there. It might help with a builder's remedy lawsuit. I don't know. I've never had one.
Yeah. The town has never had one.
Never in my 32 years that I'm aware of. I guess it's possible someone snuck in there at some point, and I never.
I'm trying to think
of
the map of geography, what might have been built under those terms.
Yeah, like the VNA site on the corner of.
Right, the Saxon that's being built right now.
Yes, worries me a little bit.
Did the planning board approve that, or did that go to zoning?
We did. That was one I think I wish I had a do-over.
Really? So I was going to ask you, what are projects in town you wish you could?
The Metropolitan on Wallace Street. I wish it was a floor shorter. Every time I come up White Street, I wish it was a floor shorter.
Okay.
That was right before the pandemic. They had the worst luck ever with the pandemic in that building, so they rented it all out, and now they're selling them, and I just think it's too tall.
And what else?
The VNA, the last renovation where they really came up towards the corner, and they pretty much threatened us and said, well, we'll have to leave town. And I was like, I don't give a shit if you leave town, go. Where are you going to go? I mean, I didn't have any personal involvement with the VNA. I didn't know anybody who took advantage of their services. But I was worried. I didn't like that. I thought that offset addition they put on that was very near the corner that a vehicle drove into more than once. I didn't love that.
John Valentin.
Really?
Wait, the old VNA building.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't it like John Valentin and...
It does ring a bell.
baseball player.
But I
baseball
kind of
player drove
wish,
into that building.
I wish we hadn't approved that. The Metropolitan's too tall, and it's only 4 stories. I think.
You were talking about you wish you didn't approve the VNA. You're not talking about the Saxon, the redevelopment
Correct.
there.
No, I'm talking about the addition years ago that they did in that corner building where they added it on, where it came right up near the corner of.
But that's a building. When I saw them knock it down, I couldn't help but think, boy, that's a shame. That was actually a fairly attractive looking building. Maybe if they built another story on that and turned it into apartments, it would have been something that kind of fit the character a little bit more than what's going there now.
Yeah, they have a green roof, so you can take your dog up to the roof, so your dog can pee on the roof.
That sounds. I'm going to have to get a dog just for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things off the top of my head. Can I think of something else I really hate that we did? No, but I'll mull it around.
What about things that could have been a disaster that you forestalled and prevented from happening?
I don't know. You should have given me some homework.
All right, I
thought
should
about
have.
that. I don't know. I don't know anything that really could have been a disaster. I'm sure there were, because there's been things we've denied over the years for sure. But I can't think of anything.
So you don't agree with my premise that this town is really? There was someone sent me a chart recently about housing starts in Red Bank, and there was nothing for a long time after the financial crisis 2000. And this is kind of mirrors nationwide. This is why we have a housing crisis right now, right? Housing construction never caught up to the 08, 09 crash nationwide.
Yeah, that's true.
And now there's this big spike in buildings.
There's a big spike with large numbers. Before that, there were tons of small single-family renovations.
Right.
Tons of them all over town, mostly on the west side. And that was a lot of the development during that time. Now you're seeing big numbers, like the train station development, with close to, it's not going to be 400 units anymore. And there are people that are not happy that we took a floor off, because there's a couple of affordable units that won't be built.
Right.
There's 20% of the...
there are people at those meetings who wanted it to go bigger.
Oh yeah. There was that one
the
guy.
Yimbies.
Yeah, one guy who lived on Arthur Place. Not Arthur Place. The other one across from...
But that's a common mindset and a point of view right now, is that we just need to be building to make up for this lack of housing construction.
But are they going to be rentals, or are they going to be sale units? It used to be, and this has changed recently, it used to be that you couldn't get financing from a bank for a condo job where you're going to sell the units. They had no faith in that. That's kind of turned around a little bit because so many buildings were rentals. So many were rentals. And I don't know what the VNA building is going to be. I don't know if that's going to be rentals or sales. I don't remember Saxon saying what they were going to do, but the company building out the train station, he does a lot of asset management for people. So everybody loves rentals. It's just going to generate cash and monthly income forever.
But this raises the issue of affordability in town, which is really the other huge issue.
I'm in the business. So.
And you've mentioned this as well, too, and this is where I'm at, whereas you have kids and then you realize, how the heck am I going to keep my family together in one place? My kids are never going to be able to afford. I couldn't afford the house I'm living in. My kids are not going to be able to afford to buy here.
Most people can't afford to buy the house they're living in now. My son moved to Florida, so he lives in Fort Lauderdale. My daughter, luckily, lives around the corner on Pinckney. But yeah, most people can't afford to buy the house they're in now. My son has made it very clear that when I die, he wants me to leave him our house on East Bergen Place. I said, you're going to have to deal with your sister for half of that, but he wants to move back here desperately. He wants it downtown.
What about? Well, that's what everybody wants. Right? That's why it's such a popular town, and that's why people are moving here. So, but you have these competing visions of what this town is. You have people who want to keep it still a small town, this a little Mayberry, and then people who are. You hear when the word city comes up, and I've seen this. Someone mentions it's a city. I think the police chief mentioned it in passing, just talking about traffic and what they have to deal with.
Which is true. Mayberry didn't have a train station to go to New York City.
Right.
Or it wouldn't have looked like it did.
Right.
And because people have a right to develop their property within the regulations that the town puts forward in ordinances and a master plan, people are going to want to capitalize. And this is a hot area right now, for sure. You know, whether you're going into the city, like I said, my daughter takes the boat. So for her, you know, getting to the boat in a reasonable period of time is important. But whether it's the train station or the state highway or the large county roads that come through and around town, it's impossible to stay true to that memory of when you were a kid. It's hard when people have rights to develop property and build things, and there is a need. Clearly, the state has made it clear through the affordable housing law that we need to provide housing for people. But my opinion is we also need housing that's affordable, not necessarily affordable housing,
Right.
just housing that your kids and my kids could afford to live in,
We don't have it.
which no one's ever going to build because
So how do you fix that?
I don't know that you do. And has anyone ever solved for that in history? You know, a house, you know, that's $900,000 now was $75,000.
You would need some macro public policy, federal, state policy that would say if a builder builds a house and sells it for 5 times the area's annual income, we're going to tax it 50%. If they build it, 30% of the annual income, you're going to get a tax credit. You'd need some massive shift.
You'd need something.
You'd need the government putting the levers hard on the market to get builders to build
stuff that's affordable.
900-foot square
so
home,
someone else,
2-bedroom houses.
Right, you got to pay off this builder with someone else's money.
That's how it's going to have to fix.
Yeah, I'll be the first person to fight you on that.
But to fight me on it?
Yeah, because I don't think that's what we should do with the public's money. I'd like that to happen, but it's never happened in history.
I know, but I'm saying that's my solution.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. Nobody wants that shit. But you know, at the same time, I'd like things to be affordable too. But
so here's the system we're left with, which is the train station building gets built, and then everything is going to be expensive rentals that your kids can't afford, that my kids can't afford, and then there's going to be 20% of them in there that's going to have all these people rush in and get their applications in, and they're going to have the affordable units.
And they already have hundreds of people on the waiting list in Redmond.
I know people who are on the waiting list. You know,
and I mean these $5,000-$6,000 a month rentals are insane. But you've got people on the peninsula of where we live that sold the family home,
right?
Made a ton of money, probably have a vacation or retirement home somewhere already, and will pay rent for a couple of years to stay in the area, or maybe their kids are going to finish high school or college. And they'll stay in the area and pay these insane rents.
See, New Jersey Transit thinks that they come up with this, transit-friendly development. They're going to get a bunch of people who are going to be taking the train to New York every weekend to go to work. But that's not right. That's not who's going to be moving into these places.
I don't know who's going to be moving.
Who's living in the? I get this question all the time. Who the heck lives there? I might actually just stand in front of one of these buildings at one point and just videotape.
Ask people.
Who the heck are you? Like the Denholtz building, the rail. Like people are saying, who the hell lives in that place?
And the place is full.
And are a lot of them?
Okay, there's one.
Peninsula empty nesters?
They probably are. And
I had to come up with an acronym for that. Peninsula empty nesters. PENS.
Yeah, we should. The other building that they're in is the one above where Danny's was, where West Elm is.
Yeah.
It's full of peninsula empty nesters. Yeah.
The shipping crate building.
Yeah.
Well, I actually don't mind it.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that either. That's Terranomics building. The people who own the Grove and a bunch of other stuff. Their principal, Chris Cole, is a bit of an Metrovation. Did I say Terranomics? I don't even know if they still use that name. Metrovation is the name. The guy is like an urban planning savant.
Did the Anderson building?
Did the Anderson building? Did
fantastic.
The building by Danny's? I have a great deal of faith in his vision. I have no eye for anything. I'll tell you if you draw it, if I like it or not, but I can't tell you what you should build there. But the rail turned out much better than I thought it would. I thought I was going to hate that building, and I would live there.
They should have kept a little kraut right in the corner, though.
Yeah, And the train doesn't bother me. No, I grew up on this train line.
And that, I can think that my little snide comment about the little kraut is kind of what this is. Now let's look across the street. There's another development proposed across the street where you have 40 apartments going in there. This is the Lupitas.
Oh, you don't have to tell me. My daughter reminds me on a regular basis.
Yeah, so in a way, that seems to be more of a shift in the fabric of this town that people complain about than even this train station. The train station project is, they're kind of dead, half-empty parking lots, and you're going to build on it. That project knocks down a 100-year-old brick building with a gallery in it, a beloved Mexican restaurant, and 3 really pretty old houses on Oakland Street are going to get bulldozed. I mean, it's just the whole thing makes you want to cry.
And I know it well because my great aunt, lived on Oakland in the house that was torn down for that new building on the corner of Shrewsbury Avenue.
You guys approved that, though.
Yeah, we did. It wasn't that bad, and I don't think it's that ugly. Mia Lupita, I'm genuinely concerned about. It's one of my favorite restaurants in town, and I think it's more like 20-something units.
But when you're considering that, now you don't want to see those buildings go. Like I don't want to see them go. Now, are you thinking? Couldn't you have found a way to say no to that, or do you have to look in the legal parameters and say I can't say no to this any legally way, or I'm going to get sued? So I better say yes, even though I hate this thing.
In general, I don't care if we get sued because we should make the best decision for the town and the site, regardless of whether or not we're going to get sued. And we've been sued a few times. But I don't think that building even needed more than one variance, if memory serves. And if you don't need any variances and you get denied, you're going to lose your lawsuit. Because the only thing the planning board can do is deny it based on the variances you're requesting. And not some crappy design waiver. A variant, if you need 5 variances, front yard setback, rear yard setback, side yard setbacks, really important things, it's hard to say, well, we didn't like the type of brick you're using and we're denying you because
what about the master plan, which talks about maintaining the character of the town and the architecture in the town? Okay, we got 3 Victorians and we have an old brick, turn of the century building there. We want to keep these things.
And the crappy old
adaptive reuse. You're not knocking those down.
And the crappy old dry cleaner used to be on the corner when I was a kid, which they didn't buy. So that one building,
right? You're going to have to build around that one on the corner,
which is bizarre to me. But someone didn't want to sell. I don't know who owns that, but they obviously didn't want to sell. I've got to assume
that corner building. It's Oakland and Bridge, right? Yeah,
correct. That's going to diagonally across from where the little crowd was.
Grover Cleveland or some president stand on the balcony there, and there's some kind of myth. Right.
Presidents have been everywhere.
But you can't. You could.
So I can't force them to do something different if they don't have a list of variances they're asking for relief from, because that's where our power is. We can say no to the relief you're asking for and give you a decent reason why and send you on your way. But besides that, if you're generally conforming height, setbacks, you're handling your parking, which I believe they were, then those are things that we can deny on, but others aren't. I mean, I'm thrilled that maybe it was the 50s or 60s when they built Riverview Towers. That's where I moved into when I moved to town.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I met my wife there. I loved that building.
And now you hate tall buildings.
And now I hate tall buildings, yeah.
I guess you see the irony in that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, totally. And that was the best place in town to watch the fireworks back in the day.
Well, so that brings up the affordability issue, too, because with that building across the street from the train station, Lupita's, those are families being pushed out. And I'm making a point that when these buildings come up, they knock on the doors and see who's living there. And a lot of working class Latino families, I don't know where they're going to go. I mean, they're
I don't either. And
people are moving to brick if they can afford to buy. Ocean County, I'm seeing that whole gentrification process.
I don't know where it's changing every neighborhood. It has for a very long time. When I was here as a child, I grew up in Shrewsbury. My father and grandfather had their plumbing supply at 66 Bridge Avenue or 60 Bridge Avenue. The West Side was all black people.
Mm-hmm.
and then that changed over time. And I don't know what the next move is. Nobody's going to get approval to tear down blocks of neighborhoods to put up a high-rise.
Mm-hmm.
The train station is a very unique kind of site because they've got the state owns the majority of it and is on board with a plan to develop it.
I think a lot of people on the west side think that train station plan is going to just put jet fuel on the gentrification process, and there it goes.
It might. It depends on where, though. Where you're going to build.
Not even just build, but just even the individual homes and the rentals, and rentals that people are,
that might
living.
Be the way the economy goes. It might just be the way it is, and maybe that forces employers to pay more for people who live here, so they can afford to live here. When my son moved to Florida, he moved to the Keys. He was in hotel management. They bus people down from Homestead, Florida, all day long to clean the rooms in all those hotels.
That's a problem in all resort areas, Colorado, the ski areas, Cape Cod, even the Jersey Shore.
We vacation in Maine every year, and we're on Mount Desert Island. It's the same thing. You can't afford to be in the service industry and live on the island.
I think some people are frustrated when it comes to affordability too. Is like, isn't there some sort of creative, radical solution now? When I worked up in Newark, I don't know what happened in this project. There was a teachers' village being built, right? It was in downtown, not far from the Prudential Building, and it was housing. And somehow they said this is for teachers. Couldn't we have done the train station and said this is going to be for our police and fire and our teachers in town? Because the teachers who are in the middle school have they're teaching your kids all day long, and then they're driving because they can't afford it. These terrible commutes.
I know.
But I guess there's a frustration out there that there wasn't some sort of out of the box thinking in terms of that kind of thing. We're going to do.
I'm not an out of the box guy.
20%,
so
5-story, 20% affordable.
If somebody had come to us with a better idea, I'm always willing to listen, which is why it's so important to me that people come to the board. But early in my real estate career, when I was an agent, in the early to mid 90s, we had a very large project in Tinton Falls, a couple hundred units. 125 of them were affordable units. And the developer bought the site and the unused development from the RTC during the savings and loan crisis. And 125 affordable units, overwhelmingly police officers, teachers, firefighters, and flight attendants. Overwhelmingly. And these people got these units for half of what we were selling them for at market rate. And I would rather the affordable units be for purchase than for rent. But it's not my job.
Yeah, the street that I moved in 22 years ago had three single family houses that were replaced by 14 townhomes. And the two affordable units, I probably came to you as a citizen back then, and
really
with the pitchfork in my hand.
Right afterwards, you're going to tell me.
Me and Bill Poku.
Who I've known since the 80s. Actually, this is a personal story, not by my reporting, but we had a really great neighborhood coalition on that with him, with me, with Norma Todd. And when Norma Todd got up, you guys listened to her. How do you not? How did anyone not listen to her?
And we did get the developer to configure. He wanted to build 18 facing out over the swimming river, and we did get, it was you guys or the zoning board, to say, no, you're not getting the right of way in the street. Build them facing the street. So that process really worked, and we got a really dedicated easement to the waterfront walkway, which is very much used between James Parker and Bank now. Like, that's used a lot. People walk their dogs there.
Good, it should be. I'm a big fan of everybody getting access to the river. I mean, we way back into the 90s, we started getting easements, which I'm sure you've heard about recently. The hospital just did a little expansion. They're all nuts about they're not all nuts. I'm sorry, Sheila. We want an easement in case someday Bill Gates rolls in through here and says, you people really need a boardwalk from end to end in town, and here's $2 billion to build it. we've got access easements. Anytime anyone has come to the board for development on the water, we've gotten this access easement into the location and along the river. Even the hospital, all the way over there.
I've done reporting on the one over on Chapin, and they're not exactly following the letter of the law over there.
No, well, they should be. Call code enforcement, that's what I say.
I saw that happen with, I worked as a reporter in Jersey City in the 90s when they were first redeveloping the Hudson County waterfront. And there was this idea that to do this, piecemeal construction of a waterfront walkway from Liberty State Park to the George Washington Bridge. And everybody thought it was nuts that the state should have gone in with eminent domain, take it all at once, and that the piecemeal approach would not work. And it eventually did work. You can ride a bike from Liberty State Park to the George Washington Bridge along the water because
I didn't know that.
It
You
all
see that
got
little
redeveloped.
lighthouse on the other side.
Yeah. It eventually worked with the developers paying for the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know that I could see a piecemeal building of it because I just don't feel like it would ever get finished and it would fall apart. But I would hope sometime in my lifetime that a portion of that is built. And, you know, the Exxon site at the foot of the bridge used to have, if you find I love collecting old Red Bank postcards, and they had a whole thing down there by the water. There was a public fishing pier. You could get ice cream. You could go down there for the day. That's an amazing wish, but just to be able to ride a bike from end to end or go for a walk. I mean, the sunset over there is unbelievable. Right. I think that's a big thing if we could ever make that happen somehow.
You do have public land from Locust Avenue, from Locust Landing, all the way to Sunset. All public except for one house on the end of River Street. So that whole trail network back there is already undeveloped public. But anyway, that's another.
And someday we're going to develop the Sunset landfill. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that'll be something the public will enjoy.
I need to look into. I don't know what's going on with that now. I did hear that.
I haven't heard anything in a while. I will ask.
Really
Sean.
crawls, and every time
I
ask about it, they say the state gets involved. It's slow, but I have seen brownfields developed in other places much faster than this, even with the state involved. And what it has taken in those cases is
this is a massive
somebody
cleanup.
Barking at them.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard anybody.
I haven't heard anybody say anything
current
about
administration,
it in a year.
Previous administration, really barking.
It's been at least a year since I've heard about it.
Ming, do you have any idea what time we're at here? I forgot to look at the time
About 40 minutes,
when we started. All right.
Yeah, 40 minutes.
All right. I could talk for.
I can talk all day long.
That's the problem. Between the two of us,
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I can talk for hours. Just sit me down somewhere and tell me what you want to talk about.
So you're wrapping it up though on the planning board.
Yeah, I figure by the time I retire next December, it'll be 33 years. Aside from being married for a very long time in your life, there probably isn't anything you should do for that long. And I just feel like it's time to turn it over to somebody else. And I don't, as I said earlier, I don't love it like I used to.
What's changed?
It's probably more angry people than ever before.
You think? Really?
Yeah, that, and I probably shouldn't read everything online, but I do. At least on Tap Into, redbankgreen, and Facebook. That's my normal routine.
Yeah.
If someone's commenting somewhere else, I'm not watching or reading.
But Facebook is especially bad.
Yeah, and it's so that could possibly be it. I haven't really analyzed why, except that I don't love it as much as I used to, and that's that.
Well, 33 years.
It's a long time.
It is a long time.
3 mayors.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. It's not something I had planned on. My parents were always very political. When we lived in Little Silver, my stepfather was the president of the council, and he got me involved in the Shade Tree Commission, which was my first foray into public service. And then when I moved to Red Bank, my stepfather, my mother, and I were down at Riverfest, and my mother saw Mayor Ed McKenna, who she'd gone back years with, and literally grabbed him and said, Ed, my son wants to get involved in town, which I had no idea about. And the following Tuesday, I was in his office to have lunch and get to know him a little bit, and that was Memorial Day around there for Riverfest, and I joined the board in August.
But now McKenna represents almost every developer that comes before. It seems
Yes,
like.
and I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Ed's, and I'll probably tell him this next time I see him if he doesn't listen to this. I don't think ex-mayors or elected officials should be allowed to represent future development in a town. I just don't.
Yeah, well, they
Go
obviously
work somewhere else.
They obviously hire him thinking that he
Yes,
knows
they do.
how this how this
I'd assume they do. And knowing how something works is good. But I don't know, I don't love it. But every application deserves to stand on its merits or not. And people deserve their right to develop something reasonably.
People have the perception in town, though, that piecemeal, every application is being approved on its merits, approved on its merits, approved on its merits, and then suddenly you have death by 1,000 cuts, and the town is a very different place.
It could be. I mean, I understand people will feel that way, and some developers will bifurcate a development into multiple applications at different boards, so you never really get to look at the whole thing.
And again, the world is a different place. One thing that's fascinated me about taking this job and going from a newsroom of 350 people and 150 to one in one small one town is the amount of people who see something happening and think it is unique to the scene in front of them. Traffic in this town is terrible. I'm like, have you gone to Brick? Have you gone to Bergen County?
I was in Hoboken a couple
Middlesex
weeks
County?
ago.
Traffic is bonkers
Everywhere.
And
Google Maps has saved my life more than once.
But I just don't. There's so many problems. I see people come in and say, I have to do something about this. The e-bikes in town are out of control. E-bikes are out of control. Because there's no state law regulating them. So it's in it. But a lot of times you take.
What are you going to throw rocks at the guy on the e-bike? What are you going to do? I mean, affect some change the way you're able to.
Yeah.
People say, that's a terrible idea. I'm like, well, you should go to Trenton and lobby someone to change that part of the law. Whatever it is. I mean, the municipal land use law guides a great deal of what we do at the board. I'm like, go change it. You don't like it? But
there's not a real. We'll wrap this up soon, but there's not a real. There's people again. You talk about piecemeal projects are heard on the merits. There hasn't really been any sort of really organized counter movement to development and
it's hard to have a counter movement. If someone owns the site,
yeah.
What are you going to do? Offer it to buy it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they were going to make $3 million on this. They paid $4 million for it. Give them $8 million and make it a park if that's really what you want to do. But it's hard because whenever someone comes forward on the next two big ones, which will probably be Wells Fargo and the Atlantic Club, I'd encourage people to come out and make your voice known. I've said already I'm not a big fan of anything but single families houses on the Wells Fargo site. But I'm not going to be able to vote on that because I'm within 200 feet, and it's not going to come before my board anyway. I think it's going to go to zoning board because they need a D variance, which isn't easy to get.
You're going to get pushed back on the affordability issue because the single family houses are going to be $1.5 million each on that.
At least, yes. But
so why not get the townhomes and have 20% affordable? That's what the argument is going to be.
Yep.
That's going to be that debate.
You're right.
There.
And I know who's going to call me and disagree with me about that. Or lean over and whisper in my ear at a planning board meeting that she's not happy about this. And you know who you are. But, you can't make everybody happy. Townhouses is more units is more traffic. And traffic's what everybody hates.
I found the solution. An e-scooter is the incredible, perfect way to get around Red Bank.
See, I thought we should build a tunnel.
Unbelievable.
From Dunkin' Donuts in Shrewsbury, under Red Bank, up on the other side of the bridge in Middletown. So everyone who's going through Red Bank and not stopping in Red Bank can do that.
Well, we are. That's a lot of the traffic is people going through.
But that would be the death of town.
Speaking of tunnels, there is a tunnel underneath the train tracks at the train station that still exists. The lights still are on.
I've been in that tunnel many times as a child.
As the redevelopment project, there's been people saying, why don't you rebuild that?
And New Jersey Transit has this tunnel in Metuchen.
It was
get
closed.
To the other side of the tracks.
It was closed because of homeless people, but now you could put security cameras down there. There's more technology now to keep that. So
there is, but when I was a kid growing up in that neighborhood, that tunnel was fun. We used to put pennies on the tracks too.
But that would be a safe way for people to get across the tracks. This might be apocryphal. This might not be a true story, but I was told that some of the resistance in town to making more bike paths and encouraging people to ride bikes was from the former borough administrator, who didn't like it and also had a personal experience of taking a kid who had been killed by a train off the tracks and being a first responder there. And
yeah, it'd be great if more people. Many of the developments we've approved recently, whether it be the rail or the train station or the VNA building, have all talked about a bike room or bike racks. So I think it would be great. I worry, though, from a pedestrian getting hit by a car standpoint, the way I see people ride by my house on e-scooters and bikes or powered skateboards, I really worry.
Yeah.
And some of our roads, despite what some people think about bike lanes, aren't wide enough. So
you got to take the parking away.
Right.
In Jersey City, they took the parking lane away. And
I'm with you.
Just put a dedicated.
Let's take all the parking on Maple
marketed
Avenue away, and that'll get people through town more quickly.
Yeah, we fixed it.
I'm all for that, but at the same time, somebody owns a business or lives there.
Right.
There's a lawsuit somebody's going to file.
Yeah.
You took away all the parking. I can't make it work here.
All right, you and I could talk about this for
all day long
time, but it's been great. It's been a pleasure.
Happy to do it. It's my first podcast. It's very exciting.
It's very exciting. Thanks to Ming Chen behind the board, the Shared Universe podcast.
Thank
you.
Right
here.
Hopefully, I haven't said anything too stupid. I've done that over the years. I've said things that I've regretted saying, and if I have, I apologize. And
well, you're a short timer. You're only going.
Yeah, I'm done. What are you gonna do? Throw me off the board? I'm out. I've made it clear I'm gone. They weren't thrilled about it, but it's too long.
All right, take care. They're gonna have to reopen Broadway to Broad Street to traffic here.
It's open.
We got it closed down just for this podcast.
And I like Broadwalk, but I think it should be September and October. I think October's the real miss on Broadwalk.
The new September.
I feel like everybody's done from the beach, which Broadwalk in the summer is competing with.
Yeah.
And all those people are home from the beach on weekends. That's when I think we need Broadwalk. And I don't pretend to know it all with that. I don't own a business in town anymore. And if the restaurants and the tenants don't like it, so
another whole topic.
That is another whole topic.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Anytime.
All right, that wraps it up.
Take care, everybody.
Take it easy.
Well, some are coding.